Okay, time might be tight today. There's actually this drone conference thing or a talk that I was interested in seeing for that CES 2018. I'll probably have to see it during my walk. There goes the bandwidth. I did send a message to the Polar Pro too, basically showing them the filter, like, hey, what happened? I first showed them the video, and then afterwards they wanted me to send them a picture just to confirm, because they thought it was the old filter in terms of the model, and it indeed was. And the response was actually kind of cool so far. They basically said, okay, yeah, we'll send you a whole new set if you want, like replace that whole old one, because the old ones actually couldn't start up with the actual filter on the Mavic, whereas their revisions could. So like, it's up to you. We can send you like a whole new set, or we can just give you that one filter, basically the one that broke. We're like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's see if they follow through with it. So far, it's been really good customer service so far too. Like I said, who knows, maybe by the end of the day, I'll get an email. So far, as usual, it's living up to my expectations in terms of the service. So I even said before, when I started, I didn't really know anything. So I kind of just went with the biggest brands, if that's what you want to call it, because I wanted to be safe, even though it's more expensive than the other options. But if they follow through with things like the customer service and stuff like that, that's great. That's what I paid for the most part, like the peace of mind. Time's running out for the light, it seems. I like how there's a big patch of snow over there by itself. I did watch that conference too, or rather the talk with DJI there. It seems like they were talking mostly just about the Osmo 2, basically their new handheld gimbal. For things like the drones, they basically talked about things, I guess, how people can fly things or make it less intimidating for them to fly. So they're talking about things like the sparks and using hand gesture controls. They're saying people like myself, I'm used to things like game controllers and video games, so it's easy for me, but for most people they find it intimidating. I was even thinking about that. For me personally, trying to control, like, say, the drone just with the screen, like the phone, I find that more intimidating just because it feels like you have less control. That thing got me curious to read all about these smaller drones, because I always said, even for drones, I know a lot of people have this thought that they can only be things like what we're used to seeing. For example, the stuff that we fly with a remote control and all that. It's interesting seeing again this drone. I've seen it before. It was this one with this drone, basically it's like a cell phone case and you can take it out and fly it. I believe it is called the Self-Fly, and it is crowdfunded, so again, the alarm bells with all crowdfunded drones usually. And I just wonder, like, with things like this, when you watch the promotional videos, for yourself or even for me, would you be more afraid of a drone like this flying over a crowd as opposed to something, I don't know, let's just say the Spark or whatever? I'd actually be more confident if I flew my Mavic over, let's just say, one or two people than that thing, because I would assume it's more stable when it comes to things like wind and all that. So that's what I found a little funny anyways with these smaller drones, but I personally think stuff like that is going to expand a little more, and I think it's good as long as they can get the tech right. I just don't see how at the moment with things like the battery life, again with the stability when the thing's that small. Alright, how about I try to get some captures? I don't know if the ND4 is going to be too dark because I'm going to be mostly facing the clouds there. I don't have my CP filter now. Okay, I'm interested to see how that turned out. Sometimes I didn't use the filter and basically the light was too bright, it said. But then at other times I thought it looked too dark, but according to the sensor reading, it said it was perfect. I was like, okay. So I'll be interested in the editing afterwards. But for the small drones again, I was thinking even for things like just to play around and get scenery and all that. They talked about here the Intel flying 100 mini drones in a light show. Apparently it can fly indoors. It's apparently this Shooting Star Mini or something like that. Because before they had all those Intel drones flying at the Super Bowl and all that, but apparently, like it says here, they flew 100 of them indoors and they like broke a record. Unfortunately, it says you can't buy these as a consumer, so I was, oh, that's too bad. But what got me interested, it said with this, it's actually one person can control them all. Makes me wonder how that would work as a regular consumer, because even now here in Canada, you can't fly more than one, correct? If I'm not mistaken too anyways, it says if you fly indoors, then no rules apply in terms of all that flight zone and stuff like that. How would you guys see the world of drones becoming? Do you think they're going to be more like a racing drone or more things like these cell phone flying drones in terms of it being mainstream to the point where everyone, or virtually everyone's just going to say, oh cool, an air selfie kind of thing? Okay, let's have some fun with this. How easy do you think it's for me to spot a drone and stuff like that in the air with this? Holy, that is interesting. That is pretty far away where that bright spot is. Wow. And that's how easy it is to find the drone with this thing. I wonder if the different modes are better. And yes, I can easily track it back to its owner just by looking at this. It's of course hard to tell if it's actually a drone for you guys right now, because that could be anything, right? But I can actually hear it. And I look around to see if I can find someone flying it if you use this thing. Yep, it should be super easy to find too. And I go like this, there it is. There's the people that are there. You guys are busted. That was interesting. Person owned the drone for 10 days, he said. Makes me wonder what's going to happen again once we hear the new regulations, if people's investment were worth it or not. Because I know even some of you guys said this regulation will determine whether or not you will actually sell it or keep it. We'll see. All right, see you guys later.